Hi guys, Exeter Rider here. This week I'm going to do a Mythbuster. That's what I'm going to call it. And basically it's all those common questions that you get with electric vehicles, or should I say electrics, motorcycles and scooters. And hopefully I'm going to quash a few of those. The first of one is the cost of them. And a lot of people are waiting for them to come down in price. I totally get that. The Zero that I tried a little while ago was an amazing bike, probably one of the best bikes I've ever ridden, but unfortunately it was 20 grand. So yes, they do need to come down in price. However, things are opening up, and this little one here, this new scooter, 3.5 grand, 50-mile range on full whack and 45 mile an hour. So it is there, and it is getting there, and it's just a matter of people buying these bikes and then getting the price down in time once the mass volume starts to get some inertia. These bikes definitely are coming down in price, and this one here, for example, is a perfect example of that, you know. And it kind of gives the bigger companies a bit of a carrot, really, to get the prices down and make it more of a viable purchase for Joe Blogg's everyday use. But when's a good time to buy? Don't know, really. I mean, things are always going to progress, you know, so you just at some point have to bite the bullet, I feel. Next one is they're too quiet. Okay, boys. Thank you. It's alright. And again, not being able to hear people, you just take account for that. I could have given them a little bit of a toot or a beat my horn back at them back along, but I was doing a low speed, and if they changed direction, then I could have accounted for it. And let's face it, with kids, I think it does them good to have a bit of a wake-up call. But at the same time, it does let you concentrate on other things. You haven't got the gears to think about, and all that sort of thing. So it does leave you a bit of brain power to just pay attention a little bit more to the pedestrians. The cars can't hear you anyway, because they got their radios on, windows up and things. Next up is bad for the environment. We haven't got enough power stations to deal with the added demand. Okay, well, I would argue that what happened in the 80s when video games come along, and then in the 90s, or late 90s, when the PCs started to come in, personal computers, laptops, all that charging, all that lithium ion in the laptops. So again, I don't think that's a valid point. And your vision of electric vehicles is electric vehicle and a smoking power station. But mine is a smoking power station, wave power, solar power and wind power. And I'm sure we've all seen the wind and solar farms popping up all over the place. Certainly the solar farms, they seem to be very much the in thing at the moment. So I personally think that with natural progression of life, farming is getting more difficult, and it's becoming bigger business if you want to make it work. But those empty fields will be filled with solar. That's what I think, and the energy will be stored and then pumped back into the grid. Lithium ion is recyclable as well, 100%, unlike cars, diesel cars. You know, once that energy is burnt, it's gone. It can be recycled in so many ways, and the most biggest way it's going to be recycled is back into batteries, I think, into power walls and things like that, which is basically home charging ports and stored energy again. So yeah, there will be enough energy. There will be, I can guarantee you that. So saying that the grid can't handle it is whiffle waffle. And again, no disrespect to anything I say here, I'm just trying to get a point across. Next one is the batteries. What happens when they go wrong? Well, the future, I'm hoping, is going to be removable batteries. And it'd be interesting to see what Honda and all the bigger makes do with that. I mean, with this particular one, the batteries are removable, but it is quite limited to 45 mile an hour and a 50 mile an hour range. So the bigger bikes have the fixed batteries, and it's a common misconception that once a power cell goes down, or basically, which is basically a battery, one of the batteries go down, that it makes the bike unviable to own and use. But again, things have come on now, certainly in the car industry, where you can just change one cell and then fire it back up again. Next one is what happens if the battery does actually die on you, or the motor goes, and it's an expensive big project. And again, it's a valid point, but the thing you have to remember is that most of the batteries come with a decent warranty, and most of them come with a 5-year life cycle. And all that means, it doesn't mean that you chuck it away in 5 years time. It just means that is, generally speaking, when it starts to lose its holding power for the energy storage. So generally speaking, after 5 years, your battery is still going to be in pretty good health, depending on what type it is and what bike it is, of course. But the Zeros, all the news, with those, you can't really go wrong with them. And again, in 5 years time, you'll probably drop down to, you'll probably lose about 20%, and it would be more than usable still. So range, yeah, that's always going to be a stickler point. Now, a lot of people that mention about range hardly do 100 miles a week themselves. So again, I think you really need to look into how much and what you use a bike for, or a scooter for. And if you can make it work, then make it work, because it is a great way of getting around. Certainly in cities, they come into their own. If you're a petrol head, and a lot of petrol heads say, oh, I'll never be on an electric, all I can say is try one, because that's what I used to say. And in fact, that's what most people used to say. And most of them has changed their mind now, because they've seen the advantage to going electric. So damn cheap for a start. What about hydrogen? And is electric the answer? Well, first of all, I personally think yes, electric is the answer on two wheels in the motorcycle and scooter world. I really can't see hydrogen being having a place in the future. Obviously, who knows? I could be totally wrong, but I really don't think so, because there's nowhere to store the hydrogen tanks. Yes, I can see it in cars, definitely. I think that's where it will work, and in trucks maybe, and trains. But we have to remember is that hydrogen is an explosive substance, so things like this can happen. Yeah, not good, is it? But it is an explosive gas, and you have to remember that. But I personally think that electric is the way for scooters and motorcycles in the future, and hydrogen will be for the cars mainly. Next up is the charging stations. Now there's two sorts of charging station. We've got the AC and the DC charging stations. For those who don't know much about the electrical world, AC stands for alternating current, and DC is direct current. DC will get you a much faster charging time. There's a number of reasons for that we won't go into, but the problem is that this country does run on an AC supply. You know, that is what is normal. So you can convert AC to DC, but it does cost a lot of money. Like this one, you can just charge it on a 13-ounce socket anyway, within a realistic time scale to charge. So yeah, for touring it isn't there yet, but some of the bikes now are going up to about 200 miles on a charge. and if you get a DC charger, then you might, well, in some cases you can get them charged within 3 or 4 hours, even less than that actually now. Anyway, that was just my views on riding electric and the future of electric. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope it's been useful and quashed a few of them. If you've got any questions about it, then ask away and I'll try and answer them. Put any comments you might have. I'm interested in your comments. I fully respect your view on it, I can promise you that. But that's just my view and common things that come up, and I will see you next week.